Yeah.
Rob, thank you very much. I want to get to some new information now. We want to go to Rod Wheeler, former D.C. homicide detective, who is very familiar with this investigation. As it continues, we are now learning 10 people have been transported to the local hospital there. One of those people are listed in critical condition. Rod Wheeler, how would you describe the situation right now?
Well, right now, I would clearly describe the situation as being contained. And the police department has actually tweeted out that the situation is under control. What does that mean? That just simply means that they do believe that if there was more than one suspect, they no longer believe that it's just the one individual. Some reports are saying that the one individual has been killed by police. Again, a lot of this is unconfirmed. But what I can tell you and the viewers is that right now it appears as though the area around Watts Hall, an area that I'm very familiar with, is 19th and College Avenue, just so that the viewers know. It's on the north side of campus. It's a wide open area. It's very easy, though, for people to drive onto the university campus from on the street, just so that you know that. So it isn't one of these areas where it's really contained. It's an area where anybody can drive onto the street. But it appears as though the massive police response of the Columbus Police Department, the OSU Police Department, and the Franklin County Sheriff's Department, they did a tremendous job at getting in there. They had practice for this type of situation, and they appear to have taken it under control.
Do we know anything about the shooter or shooters or the suspects involved in this? We really don't have much to report on that front. Is that unusual at this point in an investigation?
Right. That's an excellent question, Sandra. And no, it's not unusual. Here's the thing. In these active shooter situations, you get so much information coming in from various sources. And so you get, some people say it was one shooter, two shooters. Some people say it was a knife. Some say it was a gun. So right now, in a situation like this, the best thing to do is wait until the investigators get in there. Now, the investigators right now, they're interviewing the victims of this situation. They're interviewing other students. They're trying to determine whether or not this shooter was a student at the university or maybe just somebody that wandered onto the campus. All of these are unanswered questions, Sandra, but we'll have the answers probably before the end of today.
All right, so what does that investigation look like? I mean, we're looking at images of this campus, and you can imagine these are students who just returned from their Thanksgiving holiday weekends with their families. They get back to campus. This happens. I can imagine it's a chaotic scene. What does the investigation look like on campus at this point? Are they going to have to shut things down completely for some time?
Right. Well, the entire campus, all of the classes have been canceled for today. Now, I have relatives, nieces and nephews that attend Ohio State. Currently, I'm an actual alumni of Ohio State. I've had classes before when I went to Ohio State in Watts Hall. Just so to give you a little perspective of the area, there's a lot of students around in that area because you have so many classroom buildings in that area. So it's not unusual to have a large number of people in that area. What I'm a little surprised by, though, is that if a gun was used in this situation, and it sounds like it was, more people wasn't hurt. But I guess the good news in all of that is the response by the police department. So again, the investigators, their first responsibility is to try to determine who was the shooter, where did he get the weapons, what was his motivation, and whether or not there may be any other victims out there, maybe at another crime scene or something like that. So that's the typical way that we investigate these cases, Sandra.
Okay. Also coming into our newsroom, in addition to we're learning from the fire department that 10 people have been sent to the hospital and that one is listed in critical condition. This just coming in, according to the Columbus Fire Department, a suspect is deceased and body is still at the scene. Again, that's just coming in. Rod, your thoughts with that coming in?
Right. Well, it sounds like that the individuals that were taken to the hospital were probably taken to the Ohio State University Hospital. Now, why is that important? The hospital, Sandra, is only about 3 to 4 blocks away from Watts Hall. That's very critical. And not only that, but the OSU hospital is a level 1 trauma center, which means that they have everybody on duty ready for these types of situations. As a matter of fact, just this past Saturday, they were already staged and prepared for mass casualties because of the major football game that we just had there. So that's good news in all of this. The fact that the suspect is at the scene sounds to me like the police took him out right away and they got rid of that threat, and everyone at that point became safe.
And
Sandra.
Rod, this is something that universities across this country are having to prepare for and do prepare for actively. From what you have seen today, how have the efforts of the university working with local police, how has that played out?
You know, I think from my perspective, and I actually teach a course in active shooters for colleges and for students, I'll tell you from what I saw, and I've been following this all day, the police there did a tremendous job. Their response was excellent. But I'll tell you one other thing real quickly, Sandra, not enough college campuses prepare for situations like this. They need to. They need to work with their local police. They need to work with security representatives, and they need to prepare for situations like this, because what it will do, it will save lives at the end of the day. And I think that's what we saw here today at Ohio State, my alma mater. They saved a lot of lives.
Hey, Rod, and just I want everybody to know, I'm going to report once again that the Columbus Fire Department is reporting that a suspect is in custody. The suspect is deceased, and the body is still at the scene. Kennedy wants to jump in with a question.
I have a question.
Sure.
So we obviously learn a lot from these unfortunate mass casualties. Do you learn as much from something like this, where the police response and the response from the school has been successful, as you do from incidents like at Virginia Tech?
Unfortunately, we learn from the worst situations, obviously, Virginia Tech, the Washington Navy Yard. And you know what we try to do, Kennedy? We try to learn from these situations and improve upon them in case this situation happens again. So looking at this situation today, to be specific, we learned a lot about our response as a police department, working with the students, working with the faculty, so that if this situation were to happen again, and hopefully it won't, but we know it probably will, our response will be better, lives will be saved.
Rod, hey, it's Pete Hegseth. Got a quick question for you. I've heard some reports of a friend of mine in Columbus who had heard secondhand, but from a trusted source, that it was a vehicle running people over, and that there was potentially a knife and a weapon as well. What if that were to be the case? And again, that's speculation, unconfirmed reports. Is the type of attack to tell us about motive or who it might be? Is there anything we can glean from what we know right now about motive or approach on this attack?
Well, that's an excellent question, Pete. And I can tell you that at this point, we really don't want to speculate too much, because we need to wait and see exactly what happened. Some people said there were gunshot victims. The one thing I can tell you real quickly, though, Pete, is that on the north side of Ohio State's campus, there's a lot of ways onto the campus grounds. So anybody from the street or from the city can actually come onto the campus. A lot of dormitories are right there on the campus in that area. So I think at this point it's better to wait until we get all of the facts to learn exactly what happened. I don't want to speculate too much on that aspect, Pete.
And Rod, I don't want to look too much into the wording of this, but perhaps it could reveal something, maybe not. The wording from the fire department is a suspect is deceased and body is still at the scene. At this point, we can't rule out that there's more than one suspect.
Well, you're exactly right. And, that's exactly what we as investigators look at. We do have one suspect there. But here's the thing, real quickly. I know we don't have a lot of time. The other victims that's been transported to the hospital, was one or more of them involved in this? We don't know that yet. Is there another crime scene somewhere? We don't know that yet. But if a vehicle was used, like it's been reported, it could indicate that maybe this was somewhat of a personal attack that someone had. We don't know if this was a student. We don't know if it was just somebody in the community. Again, at this stage, I think since the suspect is down, we don't need to speculate. Let's just wait and see exactly who this person was and why they carried out what they decided to carry out.
All right. Well, after reports of an active shooter at The Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, we have learned, Rod Wheeler, thank you for your time and jumping in on this breaking news, that the suspect is dead. A suspect is dead and is still at the scene. 10 have been transported to the area hospital. One victim is listed in critical condition. We have just learned 9 others are in stable condition. And all this after a shelter-in-place warning has now been lifted at the university. That all happening at Ohio State University today, one of the largest universities in this country.